Want to do an international English test, IELTS, PTE, or the Duolingo English test? Well, I'm going to help you decide. Watch this video until the end and we'll choose the best one. Then, I'll show you how to use a website called Garuli.com to prepare for all of these tests. And I'll give you a discount code for Garuli too. Okay, so to begin, what are IELTS, PTE, and the Duolingo English test? Well, all three are international English exams mainly used for university entrance and sometimes visas. But how are they different to each other? First, location. You must do IELTS at a test centre. Same with PTE. But you can do the Duolingo exam at home. Second, test type. You can do all three on computer, but for IELTS, you can also choose to do it on paper if you prefer. Third, length. Duolingo is much shorter than IELTS or PTE. Fourth, scoring. PTE and Duolingo are both entirely graded by computer, but IELTS uses human speaking and writing examiners. So an IELTS speaking test is a very different experience to a PTE or Duolingo one. Fifth, format. IELTS and PTE are a little different. IELTS tests speaking, reading, writing, and listening separately. PTE mixes the skills up so that each question tests more than one skill. But both IELTS and PTE have set questions that are the same for every student. Duolingo, however, is entirely different. Duolingo uses adaptive technology. This means that it will test you until it realizes the questions are too hard for you, and then it will just move on to another kind of question. So Duolingo feels easier. Now, to give you an idea of how the tests compare, let's look at an example of what many people find the most difficult part of these tests. The longest writing task in each exam. To do that, I'm going to use Garuli.com. Now, Garuli is a test preparation website, and it has many practice tests and practice tasks. So let's look at a typical IELTS writing task 2 style example question. Some people say that the only reason for learning a foreign language is in order to travel to or work in a foreign country. Blah, blah, blah. So you can see IELTS writing task 2 questions are quite detailed, and they expect at least 250 words in response. And you have a lot of time to write, 40 minutes. This means IELTS expects a very thoughtful, well-structured, deep essay. Now, let's look at a typical PTE style essay question. What do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of the education system in your country? Already you can see that it's a shorter question than IELTS. It gets straight to the point. And PTE expects about the same number of words as IELTS, 200 to 300 words. But you only have 20 minutes to do it. That is half the IELTS writing time. So this means your PTE essay does not need to be as deep as your IELTS one. Expectations must be lower. Next, let's look at the Duolingo English tests, long writing task and example question. The gig economy is growing rapidly. Discuss both the advantages and disadvantages for workers in this type of work environment. See, this is a similar question to the PTE essay, right? But you only need to write 50 words, and you only have 5 minutes. So for the Duolingo test, your writing task is much shorter than PTE and way shorter than IELTS, and there's much less expectation of formal academic standards. Now, these differences are symbolic of how the whole of each test is different. IELTS is the most academic, Duolingo is the least academic, and PTE is in the middle. Now, the writing tasks that I showed you came from guruli.com. And Guruli is a test preparation website you can use for any of these 3 tests. Now, I always recommend that if you're preparing for a test, you should start by going to the official test preparation materials, look at the test maker's website, and I'll drop those in the descriptions below. But there are simply not enough free official preparation materials. And you really should do at least 10 to 15 mock tests before sitting your real exam. So, that's where Guruli comes in. Just choose the test you're preparing for and presto, go into mock tests. Boom, there are 31 IELTS mock tests, 40 PTE mock tests, and 16 Duolingo mock tests, and it's growing fast. Guruli has other features too, tips and strategies for each test, and these section-wise tests. These allow you to focus on your weak points. So let's say you're doing IELTS. If you're normal, one of your weak points will be the task 2 writing. So go to section-wise tests and do targeted practice of just that part of the test, like I did here. See? Guruli gives you AI feedback on your writing, so you have an idea of what to improve. It does the same for your speaking too. And, of course, it scores your reading and listening instantly. So you can learn from your mistakes, improve your weaknesses, and then go back and do more mock tests. Test success is largely about 2 things: being familiar with the format and time management. So, I cannot stress this enough. Do 10 to 15 mock tests on Guruli if you want to get the score you deserve. Now, let's decide which test you should do. First, cost. You may want to make your decision based on cost. Well, IELTS and PTE are both usually between $200 and $250 American dollars. Depends on which country you're in. Duolingo is usually around $49 US anywhere in the world. So the clear winner is Duolingo. 2. University acceptance. You really should make your decision based on whether your chosen university or visa will accept that test. You need to carefully check the entry requirements for any course you want to study and the country you want to live in. But here is some general information. For IELTS, most universities and colleges in the world accept it, and it is the #1 English exam in the world for getting a visa. For PTE, a lot of universities accept it, and some countries accept it for visas too, especially Australia and New Zealand. Duolingo, right now, it's the least accepted for university entrance, but it is growing fast. But you cannot use it for a visa anywhere. So, check the entry requirements for the specific course you want to take or visa you want to get. But if you want the widest possible option, the winner is IELTS. 3. Chance of a high score. Note, there will not be a big difference in your score for any of these tests. But sometimes a small difference is all you need. So let's check out the differences. IELTS is the only one that uses human examiners for writing and speaking, remember? So, if you're good with people, this could be good for you. But it makes your score harder to predict. Now, IELTS examiners are very well trained, but they're human. So they have biases. PTE, in my opinion, is the most predictable. Unlike IELTS, it's all marked by computer, so you don't need to worry about the mood swings of your speaking examiner. As for Duolingo, like PTE, Duolingo is all marked by computer, and it's also adaptive. This means it stops testing when it believes you have reached the limit of your skills. So the Duolingo test feels easier, but that does not mean that you will get a higher score. So, which test will give you the highest score? It depends on your skills. If you're good at expressing ideas to a human, do IELTS. If you have a short attention span, do Duolingo. But I'm going to give the winner of this round to PTE because you can prepare for it most predictably. So, to recap, choose the test that fits your needs. Duolingo if you want cheap and convenient, IELTS if you want widely accepted, and PTE if you want the most predictable score. And I recommend Guruli.com so you can prepare effectively for any of these tests. By the way, if you're interested in Guruli, go to Guruli.com and enter the code PAM20 for 20% off of a 60-day package. Also, please like and subscribe to my channel for more tips on English learning. I post at least 4 YouTube shorts every week. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.